this way. Good morning. My name is Dan Scalaro. I am a member of Raim, and this is Meditation Minyan on the first Tuesday in January 2024. We look forward to the next 20 minutes with you in our meditation, and thank you for joining us. Blessed are you, Shekinah, our God, Spirit of all that joins us, who inspires us to live together and encourages us to help each other to thrive. One of the foundations of Torah is the idea that God is providing for us, and that another is that we are made in God's image, not just physically, but spiritually. And so today I'd like to explore with you in a guided meditation manner the ideas that embodies and in terms of how we come together and how we recognize our needs and provide for our own needs and the needs of others. And to start with, I would like you all to just relax. You may have your eyes open or closed, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But think about, as you're getting into your position, not every little piece, every limb of your body or extension of your body being its own entity, but what are you as a whole? What are the different systems that are interacting to make you you? What are the needs of those systems? For example, your I'm sorry. For example, your skin is an organ that is part of you. So all throughout your body, your skin provides for you by protecting you from things outside of you, but also providing space for things that help you to live and protect you in your skin. So you're providing for those uh, little buddies at the same time that they're providing for you. Similarly, if we think about going in from our skin, we know that we have a circulatory system, something that's bringing the non-living air around us into our bodies, breathing in the breath that some view that God breathed over the waters at the very origins of Earth, that God breathed into the first human being, and that in fact we're breathing in from plants today and breathing out into the atmosphere that shares our breath with all the rest of the world. And so the respiratory system connects us not just fingers to elbows to shoulder to chest, but also us to the myriad animals, plants, fungi, microbes, and life overall that is breathing in and breathing out every moment of every day, whether awake or asleep. A third system that goes through our body is the digestive system. We're taking in energy and we're transforming that energy into life inside of us. And the human digestive system has a myriad of different species that are coming together, invisible to us, inside of us, that create entire ecosystems out of our insides to keep us alive. And so to think of ourselves as not just an entity, but a whole ecosystem of entities that are working together or cooperating. And we refer to this as a microbiome, the tiny habitat inside of our various tissues, and in this case, our stomach. And that again connects us with a much wider world. For those of you who have ever taken probiotics or macrobiotics, you're inviting other species, friendly little buddies, into your body that will help you to break down things that we call food into pieces that we can use as building blocks to make us us. And so these systems, skin, circulatory, respiratory, I'm sorry, respiratory and digestive, are connected uh, as well through our circulatory system. Our blood that flows from our heart into our lungs gets oxygen and back to the heart again, and then brings us oxygen that was made available to us by all the plants and green uh, photosynthesizing species on the planet. We're bringing this oxygen that they created for us and for each other into our bodies and then circulating it around our bodies through our circulatory system. I'm going to stop for just a moment to have you reach out and see if you can envision or feel what this circulation feels like inside of you as this oxygen comes in through your breath, breathing in, and then we breathe out. And as we breathe in and we breathe out, the circulatory system is bringing each breath around to every spot in our body. And what's amazing to me is all those little buddies that are with us are getting those same benefits. The oxygen is just washing over all of our cells and the cells of our little buddies. And together, we're making us. We are not just one, but we are many. And in fact, if you counted all of the cells that make up all that travel with you every moment of every day, the majority of them are not of the species Homo sapien. They are all those little buddies that are helping Homo sapiens people to and you to thrive, to survive and thrive. And thus, I find it amazing that these different systems we're talking about are each have their own colonies of little buddies, microbes that are helping us to create a microbiome inside of ourselves, an ecosystem out of the individual, and an individual out of the ecosystem. Now, if we spread ourselves out from these different systems, we have a particular system which I've been studying most of my life, actually, which is our nervous system, which connects us with what's happening inside of us. Are our eyes open or closed? Are our stomachs growling or not? Are our fingers moving or staying still? And in addition to that internal awareness, obviously, as you all know, the nervous system is making us aware of what's happening around us, but only in a few ways. You know, a few you're seeing the full spectrum of the rainbow. The covenant at the end of the flood is just a microcosm of the number of frequencies of light which are flying through the air and reflecting off the surfaces of our planet and absorbed by our skin. And but just a tiny fraction of the overall spectrum of light from microwave to infrared that are bathing our planet in energy every moment since the first day of the creation of our planet. We're hearing sounds, and you may be hearing sounds from your own body or from your house that might sound human made, as it were. Perhaps you're like me hearing the sound of the wind right now, or the birds that are thinking that it's springtime in January. And this again is this tiny fraction of all of the sounds that are coming through our space right now. I'm amazed to think about the idea of bats hearing ultrasonic sounds, you know, little flying mice being able to hear these sounds that we can't even perceive going on, and using those sounds to echolocate and find their food, and hear fine-tuned buzzes that we can't even imagine what they sound like without transforming them into something that works with our ears. And then there are the cetaceans, the whales, and the dolphins and the porpoises that are using their voices to communicate not just across the street or across town, but across entire oceans. These low frequency sounds can spread. Uh, are For those who are having allergies right now, you may also be able to smell things. And these smells, so many of the smells that we are attentive to are molecules of life. Some of those are little buddies that are around, as I was talking about before, but also the pieces of life, I guess is the best way to think of it. They're pieces of life, and our nose, as we inhale, is sensing life around us. And we may not be perceiving every single fragrance and odor out there, but so many of the things we sense are reaffirming that we are not alone on this planet, that there are all sorts of things, past and present, that are circulating in the air and coming in with every inhale. And finally, well, actually not finally, but the the feelings we can sense from our tongue. You can think for a moment maybe about each of these sweet. Is there something sweet that you immediately comes to mind that you enjoy, that brings uh, you a smile when you taste it, enjoy its flavor? Salty things, something that's brings you a sorry, salty. When you imbibe something salty, does it make you feel calm? Does it make you feel thirsty, hungry, uh, satisfied? What sorts of feelings do you have when you imagine something you enjoy that has a salty taste to it? Then there's sour. Some of us love sour, some of us hate sour, but it's also important in that sour is telling us things that are not quite the way they started, perhaps, with the exception of some plants like lemons and other tangy fruits. Often, uh, sour is telling us, just be careful about this. Is this the right thing to be having? If it's vinegary, is it good vinegar or is it spoiled milk? Things like that. It's amazing to me that we've taken this particular taste of sour, and we've found so many ways to be able to use it in ways that help us. Sour cream, uh, the vinegars we use for cleaning and drinking, or and making vinaigrettes. And maybe you have some ways that you enjoy the flavor sour when you consume things or taste things or whatever else. You can think about that now. And finally, oh, I'm sorry, there's bitter. I think of Passover a lot when I think of bitter, the bitter herbs, and why do we uh, partake of bitter intentionally when many people might find it revolting or distasteful, and what it means to take bitter with sweet. I'm reminded of a poem I once read about a gentleman who invites you into his house and he pours one cup of wine and another of wormwood, which is a very bitter drink. And he always hands his guests the wine, and he drinks the wormwood. And the writer of the poem says, he does this every time, and I never understand why, but he's always the happiest person I ever met. And how is it that we take the bitter and we find in it a contrast to the happiness that we might see elsewhere? And finally, my favorite discovery of this only a few years ago is what some of you may know as umame or savory. And what sorts of things do you find savory? Um, if you can imagine that taste in your mouth. So these sensory experiences, vision, to see things, to hear things, to feel things, to smell things, and to taste things are all ways in which we perceive uh, the world, externally and internal world, uh, to help us to understand where we might find what we need and what we need and discover what we need. I feel, uh, for instance, a tickle on my skin. I, want to try to act in the way that's appropriate to see what it is, and then move where I want to move or how I might want to move to address that tickle on my arm, for example. And in the context of our meditation, all of these different senses provide us a means of accessing both ourselves as well as all of the other things, aspects and forms of life in which we interact inside of ourselves, with each other, and indirectly through air and water and the land we traverse, the things we consume and the things we dispose of, how we're interacting with the rest of the world and the life that exists on it. And for me, my career has been a lot about how do we find and sustain all of these things that are connected to us and connected through us and connected in us. And perhaps for you too, you feel the connections between what we perceive, what is living with us and helping us, and what is uh, benefiting from our actions. One way of thinking about this is the idea of symbiogenesis, which is the way in which we came to relate to each other and work together. And for me, symbiogenesis, how we come together, to live closely together in harmony, is a very important value, even as it is a um, process in life. So I encourage you for a moment to think about, is there some entity, person, animal, plant, otherwise that you interact with in such a way that you're helping each other and you're generating a symbiosis between you? Give you a moment to think about that. We've been talking about ecological and biological connections. I just wanted to make sure we think one way, about, I think in a new way, I'm sorry, about how we can connect not just physically and biologically, but also spiritually. And in Torah, many of the connections are captured in terms of covenants, the covenants that God made with God's people. But Genesis, which we just finished last week, ends with a very different kind of covenant. One brother tells his brothers and sister, uh, "I will sustain you." A covenant between a person and a person and people. He said, uh, Joseph says to his family, "I will sustain you and your children and your progeny." And for me, this is one of the most, excuse me, not one of the most crazy sounding, but one of the most profound moments in the book of Genesis that ends with Joseph saying, "I will sustain you and your children." And I hope as we lift ourselves out of this guided meditation, you can think about the ways in which you felt, um, you felt you were receiving. I'm sorry. You can think about the ways in which you feel your needs are met by others providing things for you, And then also what you are providing to others in your families, in your communities, across the ecosystems of our world that help us to fulfill the covenant that Joseph made with his siblings, that I will sustain you and I will sustain your children and your children's children. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this guided meditation. When you feel ready, please feel free to open your eyes and rejoin us if you are here in real time. And if you've come in via video, we hope you enjoyed this and look forward to your participation in the future. Thank you.